All right, welcome back to the third video on my repaint tutorial. I know I said we were going to start out with a tail, but I did want to take a second real quick to make out a point, primarily about trial and error. As you can see, I've already got the gray stripe in on the side, and I'm about to put the green stripe in. I've got the path done for that. If you notice, all the anchors I have put in throughout the green path. That's all trial and error because we want to try to create, as you see, the space, if we get to the actual photo, is pretty much even throughout the lines. So if we go back here, we want to try to create that even space throughout. As you see, I think I did a pretty good job of doing it on the blue. And if I fill the path on the green here, it looks like it's also pretty decent job was done on the green as well. Maybe right here I can add a little bit more. Put a more angle there. Let's see how that looks. I think it actually probably comes off this path here. See how that looks. Okay, that looks pretty good. So I'll export it, file export. One thing with the export, it's very important that you make sure it is actually the actual file name that's used in the flight sim, or else the texture won't show up correctly. So we go back to our aircraft editor, just change our texture real quick so it reloads, and our green's in, and it looks pretty solidly spot on. So that's the fuselage part of things. Now, if you notice too, this is another thing where I mentioned the accuracy isn't going to be perfect. So if you look here, we're going to have to do engine stripes at some point for this. Green stripe's going to come up from here and probably jut out at the top up here. Meanwhile, on the real paint, you see the green stripe comes like that, and it comes out of the top of the engine. Typically, the engine stripes are about in line with the fuselage. They're about in line with the fuselage stripes. They're supposed to look solidly even from straight on. So this is a case where I have to make a decision. Do I want to paint it like this, or do I want to paint it so it looks like a nice even continuation of the line that ends here and begins over here again? So that's something I'll have to consider when I get to painting the engines, which will come after we get the tail done. So I mentioned we're doing the tail next, so all the tail paint is basically centered up in here. So we'll go back to our picture, and we work from the bottom up on the fuselage. We'll work from the top down on the tail. So we'll start with blue first. And we'll create a new layer for this one. It's tail blue. And start out like right here. Looks like the blue comes down to, let's see, probably right about here or so. Looking at that, yeah, maybe a little bit longer. We'll have a look at it when we put it in the sim. And then we come all the way over to about here or so, it looks like. And we'll bring it back up. So now we've got to create that pretty sharp angle. So we're going to try with the control click first. And that looks to be about what we're looking for. So we'll fill the path. And looking at that, I think we could probably have a little more angle like that. So we'll drag that over, see what it looks like now. Actually, now I think what we need to do is we need to center this up a little more. So that peak should be right underneath the tail light, which we'll have to see is that it's on the model. So we'll go ahead and export and we'll see what it looks like. So you can see it's way, from what it looks like on here, it's actually way different on the actual paint kit. So we're gonna have to bring this down at least. And if we look at where the corners were on the actual, we probably need to bring them down a little bit too, at least this one. So we'll bring that down a little more, over a little bit, and we'll take that back off and we'll put a new one on. So we'll see how this looks. So our top of our peak is right underneath there. We want to be. We just need more. This needs to come down more. So what I'm going to do here actually is we'll have a look at the wireframe. So we'll take the white off and turn the wireframe on. And you see the only stuff that would be displayed is basically the blue that's within the wireframe is the only stuff that would be on the paint kit. All this other stuff is gone. So what we're going to do here actually, I'm going to take this out. I'm just going to move this sideways over. So it's just barely outside the wireframe. Go ahead and add this back in. And we know about how much we need at the top there. Maybe about that much. Okay, so we can turn the wireframe off now. Turn our white background back on. We'll fill our path. Now I know it looks so weird on my tail right there, but we export it. Have a look in the sim. It looks a lot better. I think we probably need to drag it down a lot more. Give kind of that down angle. See how this looks. And that looks pretty good to me. It's obviously not ever going to be straight spot on, but it's pretty solidly in place. So, and then come around the front, just make sure. So what I'm doing here is I'm just making sure that it looks like, yeah, so there's no white space in between where the other side would start and where this side ends. So we haven't missed any space with the blue paint that we put on. So, oops, picked the wrong mode there. So we're back over here. So I'm going to go ahead and finish up the remaining 2 tail stripes in the same manner. And then I'll get back to you guys with the engine striping after that.